Hey everyone, I'm a portrait and fine art photographer, and in this video I want to show you how to remove any unneeded details from a photograph. I will use spot healing brush, patch tool, content aware fill tool, and clone stamp tool, of course. And let's go! So this is my source image, and I took it about 5 years ago. It's not perfect, and you can see that there is, for example, the street sign on the bottom really takes a lot of attention to it because of the vibrant green color. It's ugly, yes, and I could choose a different angle, but I didn't do it. And Now I have a lot better compositional skills. I would make a lot better picture if I wanted to, although I would probably just not take a picture like that. But here we edit this image and we remove details with different tools in Photoshop. Here you can see all of these tools on the left side, and there are spot healing brush, patch tool, then stamp, clone stamp, and one more we will use is content aware fill. I will show you exactly how all of these tools are used, what are the features of them, and what can you do to remove any detail from your picture in no time. And the first tool we use is spot healing brush. This tool, as you can probably understand from the name of it, used for the spots, not for big objects, because it works automatically and you just need to paint over something and then it will be replaced. It works perfectly on some plain backgrounds like the sky, for example, but it doesn't really work on hard textures because it replaces them not correctly, and you would need to take some more touches with other tools to actually get a perfect result. And as you can see, it doesn't work on the street sign because it's too big and the program doesn't know what you want to replace. And here comes healing brush tool. It works quite well. You just need to take the sample from another part of the image and put on the part that you want to be replaced. What you need to take in mind that this is content aware tool, so it tries to match the color of the replaced area with the surroundings. And sometimes the colors on the edges start to leak on the replaced area, and I usually use it in combination with stamp. And the next tool we have is patch tool. Uh, it works very similar to all of the other tools. The only difference is that you need to select the area and replace it with another area on the picture. And that's the only difference you have. Sometimes it might speed up the process, but I usually don't really use it because I stick to the tools that I use all the time. And still it can be quite handy. It also has two modes, content aware mode, which works more like healing brush, and classic mode that uses more like clone tool, clone stamp tool. And here comes the clone stamp tool, which is the most classic tool you can find in Photoshop. And it does the most basic thing. It just copies the sample and places it whenever you want. And that way you can replace almost anything, but it doesn't match the color at all. So for example, if you want to remove a bird from the sky, then if you take the sample from a brighter part of the sky, then the result will not be really pleasing because the color will be very different. And that way it's better to use it with in a combination, as I said before, with healing brush tool to actually match the color too. Or on the sky you can use just healing brush tool, you don't really need the stamp. But sometimes in healing brush tool the colors start to leak, and that's why it's better to use them together, or to use stamp for some parts of the images where you have contrast in colors. On the top you can see all of the settings for the tools that I described before, and you can use, for example, different blending mode. These can be exactly the same as the blending modes of the layers, and of course you can use it for the brush and for anything you want, but I don't really use it. Almost never I use it because these are quite advanced, and when I need to replace something it doesn't really comes handy. So you can see I can replace on screen, on soft light, and difference even if I want to do something crazy. But when it comes to photography, you only need the normal. You can choose, of course, different opacity, and almost everyone knows how it works. Basically, if you choose lower opacity, then when you put the sample, it doesn't matter how much you paint over, you get the opacity that you've chosen. And as you see, I put more and more, and I gain the opacity every time I put a new layer. Flow works a bit different. With flow, you can paint longer to gain opacity. So, for example, when I use curves and I use masks, to gain the opacity while I'm painting, I put opacity to something like 30 and I put the flow to something like 7% or anything like that. And then I get more and more opacity while I'm continuing to paint over. So both of these variables help you to get more control over the tool and make the changes a bit more subtle, but at the same time you can apply the changes to the new layer and then change opacity as much as you want of the separate layer. Aside from that, you can choose any brush you want. I have hundreds of them, but I usually use either hard round brush or soft round brush, because for photography you don't really need anything else. And the next two buttons, the first one is brushes and settings of the brushes that you'll probably never use, but the second one is actually really important, and this is clone stamp tool settings. The stamp settings overall I don't use, but I use a lot the angle of the stamp. And this might be extremely helpful when you, for example, have some curved line that you need to continue or replace something on the curved line. And then you can take the sample from one part of the line, then change the angle of the stamp and put it in another part. This is really helpful, and just remember it or save it somewhere or save this video to not forget how to do that in case you encounter a problem like that. And below you can see that I use the tool as it's supposed to be used. For example, let's say I want to keep this ugly street sign, but I want to remove the window instead. And then I have this curved line, and I take the sample from the top of the line, then change the angle of it, and put it down to continue the curved line. It's not perfect, but I don't aim for perfectness, I just want to show you how it works. And then I can continue replace the window and keep the pole of the street sign. And the next toggle is aligned. You can either tick or untick it, and if you choose to use the option, then what you'll basically get is that the sample that you pick will follow your brush. And I don't know, like, if it's helpful at all. Sometimes I could use it. For example, if you just pick a sample on some part of the image and then you go to another part to remove something there, it might be helpful, but I don't know, I really usually don't use aligned, because then every time you continue paint, you start from the same area where you sampled before, and I just replace my sample all of the time. And the next thing you can change is which layer to sample. For example, if you have a few of adjustment layers on top, I had this problem a couple of times. I didn't really understand for a while why I sample and then I get a completely different result. I get different color and it doesn't work natural. And then I realized at some point that, okay, this is the problem. Basically, I sample all of the layers, and because of that, I also sample the adjustment layers, and then I get completely wrong color. And I would say the best option is to sample not all of the layers, but only the current layer and below. This works perfectly, and that way you can ignore all of the layers above the one you need to edit. Another feature that I actually never used because I didn't know it is there. I never really needed it because I did everything with the current and below sample. But you can ignore exceptional adjustment layers. You can see that button. If you press on it, you will sample without color and value adjustments, and it will work actually perfectly. So you can just press that all the time, because I don't think you will ever need to sample colors from the adjustment layers too. And here is the last tool, a really powerful one, and the one you can use anytime to speed up your process. Sometimes you also need to give it a few touches after using it, but at first you can select the area. You need to select it before using the tool, otherwise it will be unavailable. And later you can choose the area that you want to sample, and the program will do its magic on the background and show you in live how the changes are applied. Let's say what will happen if I actually remove the whole sample area. And actually it's interesting how it works overall. I want to see I want to mess it up. I want to make it work wrong way. And let's see, let's say I put the sample exceptionally on the windows above. Whoa, I think I get quite a cool abstraction. It could be some modern art. Look at this. I think we could use this. Let's look at the settings on the right side. You can output it to new layer. I would recommend that again, because then you can change it any way you want. You can put mask, you can change opacity, you can also scale it. It doesn't work right now because I messed up the whole program, but if you press scale, it will try to scale the object to match it. And yeah, you can do color adaptation. This is again similar to healing brush. If you put higher color adaptation, then you can get a bit nicer look if you don't touch contrasting edges, because then the color will leak. Rotation adaptation is the same as rotation of the stamp, but it does everything automatically. So this tool can save you a lot of time if you apply it to the right place. And I think that I will remove all of the adaptations. I will untick mirror and scale because I don't need any of this. I like the abstraction that I got and I want to use it, push it further. And I think this is how a lot of art is created. It's created by accident when you just experiment, try new things, and then you get to do something creative, and that was not done before. I don't know if it was or not. Tell me in the comments if it was. But basically, this is the way to go. I think with just experimenting and choosing very, very random textures, we can create something beautiful and which can even represent some new idea that was not present before. So I decided to get a bit bigger sample of these windows, get this random composition of the windows very abstract, and at the same time, in my opinion, it's quite beautiful. And then I will copy this layer and put it on top to fill the whole space with these windows. Now this is the world of the windows, the world of glass. Probably this is the world of capitalism. The poor live in tiny flats, all packed together, that barely get any light from the outside. And here's our hero, Tom. He's the only person present in the frame that was persistent enough, and in the aggressive world of market he got a bigger window. He worked just a few floors up in a broker company and fell down because to raise so much money he had to put down his friend's business. Yet he is climbing up this vicious skyscraper that starts deep down in the abyss, so far away that the eyes won't see the bottom. Some people are born on the top, where the days are longer and the sunsets are more vibrant. This is the dream, sighs Thomas. But then, when he looks below himself, he often feels uncomfortable. He doesn't want to think of anything below it isn't worth it. Instead, inspired, he day to day comes to his window and looks above at the shiny, toned, enormously huge window of his landlord. That floor is the one he was born on. It's not the top of the tower, but so many people would love to live there. This is the window. Someday I'm not gonna have to work anymore, like my precious landlord. He's a genius, I respect him so much. I would love to someday be like him. But for now, I am obediently paying the rent. This is the way to go, but in my lifetime, I'll also become a landlord. And a few families below in the tower will be paying my bills for such a magnificent window like the one above. Okay, if we put the jokes aside, I like this picture quite a lot. I thought to give you some backstory of this photograph. On this picture, as you could see, I put probably like 15 layers or something, I didn't count them, to add more contrast, to shift the composition. Sometimes you can actually change the composition just by adjusting the light on some parts of the images, and I will record a new video on that one too. If you would like to not miss it, subscribe to me, and yeah, I will post these videos too. Okay, that's everything I wanted to show in this video, and I hope this will make your images more minimalistic and you will be able to edit them a lot better now. I use this tool almost in every third picture, and it really helps to keep up my minimalistic style in photography. Anyways, I'm very interested in photography, that's why I started this blog. I love photography and I love learning, and I have been doing it for about 9 years. And I wish you to explore the world through your viewfinder and continue on your journey. And thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video, and you can subscribe to not miss it. And yeah, have a nice day.